I am Jeff Foxworthy, and welcome to Gamekeeper Podcast. If you want to learn more about farming for wildlife and habitat management, then, buddy, you are in the right place. Join the Gamekeeper crew direct from Mossy Oak Land Enhancement Studio as they discuss the latest wildlife and habitat management practices, news, and, of course, hunting. There's no telling what you'll learn, but I'm going to tell you, I bet it's interesting. Enjoy.
We're live in 3, 2, 1.
All right, everybody, here we are, West Point, Mississippi. Let me set the table. We've got Cuz sitting in Lanny's chair. Welcome, Cuz.
Minus the laugh.
Well, we might make you laugh before it's over with today. Toxie's down there.
Doing my homework like always.
Yeah, doing his homework. All right, so let me turn around and through the magic of, well, it didn't, is it Zoom, Richie? We're doing Zoom?
Yeah, it's Zoom this time.
Through the magic of Zoom, we've got Todd Ammonroot, our editor of the Gamekeeper magazine. He is in Minnesota. And he looks like he's Paul Korn is in the closet somewhere in Missouri.
If you know, you know, right?
Well, Paul, it doesn't surprise me you're in a closet somewhere. But you're at the Tombstone Creek Outfitters, which is a place that you own and run there in Missouri.
Yes.
Are y'all deer hunting right now?
Yeah. Deer season opened on the 15th of September, so we're about a week in.
So you got deer hunters out, then you come running back and get in the closet there so you can talk and be quiet.
Yeah, I gotta hide. I gotta get away, But no, yeah, it's only the quietest place in the house right now. There's about a dozen people in camp, so it's pretty crazy around here right now.
Have y'all killed any big deer so far?
One, and we've had quite a few opportunities, but it just didn't seem to get connected. But yeah, we've killed one good one and seen quite a few. But the weather hasn't cooperated real good. It's been rainy and wet and hot, but the weather just broke here really overnight. So I'm expecting things to pick up here over the next few days.
So you guys have had some rain?
Yeah, we have. Yeah, believe it or not, it rained quite a bit in Missouri this year. I mean, it was dry in August, but normally by the time you get to July, you're an old farmer once told me, I'll take any rain I can get in July. I don't care when and if or when and how much, but it rained all the way through July here, very wet. And then, then it kind of dried up in August and it was dry until the beginning of September. Now we're starting to get some more rain. So, but yeah, the crops look great here and, everything's looking really good. We're ready to get started. Acorns are dropping. Hunters are in camp. We're just rocking and rolling.
Man, that's a good feeling.
Yeah, it is.
Well, so Paul is a really interesting guy. He's got an archery shop up there in Wisconsin somewhere. I'm not sure what town that's in Wisconsin.
Hudson, Wisconsin. A1 Archery in Hudson, Wisconsin. My wife and I started it in 1988. And then Dan Ellison, who was really my partner in it, started working for me when he was 13 years old. Now he's in his late 40s. He's still, poor bugger, still working with me. But he pretty much runs that. I run the outfitting stuff down here. He took that over, probably over 20 years ago. But does a great job of running that business and built it to what it is today. But so I've been focusing on the outfitting, and this has turned into a little bit more than a part-time job that I was thinking it was going to be when I started, Oh,
I bet it is a lot of work. Because let me just tell you, I don't know how well you know Paul, but when he decides to get into something, he is all in. And he got into bow hunting a long time ago.
Oh, yeah. Everybody, if you've ever bow hunted, if you got serious about it, you know who Paul Korn is.
For sure.
I always watched him from afar. And amazed. I mean, you can go to his Instagram right now and start looking at bow pictures, and it's like one outfitter spot. Just keep scrolling. It's pretty amazing. So he's done a lot of stuff right. Killing a big deer with a bow and arrow. He's kind of got that figured out too. He's impressive.
Well, I appreciate it, but everything I do, I seem like I do jump into it. Like when I was a kid and I learned to swim, I went right to the deep end.
I was just looking at some of your videos earlier, and you've got a pretty impressive trophy wall.
Yeah.
How many of have you taken all the big game animals?
I've taken most of them. There's still a handful that I need, and and they're the real easy ones like polar bears and mountain goats and bighorn or Rocky
Muskox.
Mountain bighorn sheep, yeah, stuff like that. But I have all the deer, all the caribou, muskox, mountain lion, pronghorn. I guess there's 28 or 29 of them, and there's really just a handful, couple of sheep, a polar bear, a mountain goat. The main thing, I don't have a free ranging bison. I've killed some bisons, like on places in South Dakota and stuff, but I'm a handful away, and I hadn't given up on it, but my dad is 81 years old, and I take him hunting a lot, and that pretty much is consumed, the time and effort and what I can do. We just got back from antelope hunting in Wyoming, and he of course uses a crossbow because he has for the last, I don't know, probably 30 years. But we went out there and we hunted with our friend Bruce Hudala, who we were talking about earlier. And my dad got an antelope, I got an antelope, Bruce killed an elk, and we had a great hunt. But it takes a lot to get them around. Even the trip out there was 12 hours. We took it, 2 days getting out there and just taking our time. And so as long as he's around and we can go hunting, that's kind of the priority kind of went off trying to do a super slam, trying to get them all. And now, hopefully Dad will, be here when he's 100 and I'll be too old to do that stuff. That's my goal.
Well, I think hunting with your dad takes the cake over a polar bear.
Oh
or something.
yeah, there's no doubt. It's
Yeah.
It's been great. We're supposed to go to Texas here in December, and hopefully he's feeling good enough to go. He's just been slowing down a little bit, but his legs are bothering him and stuff. He's got bad circulation in his legs, and he has to sleep with oxygen, but he still goes, and I think it gives him something to look forward to too. If we would have just stopped, and I give him credit because it would be easy to say I don't want to do it anymore, but we've got so many great friends and people that we've met through the years. And I mean, he talks every time he talks about going down to hunting with Bobby. We hunted with Bobby there, down in Florence a couple times, and all the great people that we've met and he's met. Now he's got friends all over the United States and Mexico and Canada. And he looks forward. He wants to see his friends and hang out and do his thing. So it's pretty cool.
Well, that's the fun part about it, is hanging out with all your friends.
It is.
Yeah, that pronghorn was really impressive that he shot the other day.
Yeah, boy, he's still very, it's really almost amazing to watch him shoot, because everything I know, like his hearing is, gotten worse, his eyesight has gotten worse. But I want to tell you what. You don't want to be on the other end of his crosshairs. I'll tell you that, because it's usually not very pretty,
Yeah. So, guys, let me just say this. So I've known Paul 25 or 30 years. And when I met him, his dad was with him, and they were like best friends then. Whenever you encounter Paul, it's all, the conversation goes to his dad. And that's just the way it ought to be. And Paul, you recognize how fortunate you are.
I do. I really do. We've had close calls along the time, and luckily we'd have close calls and it'd be like, okay, time to, we're doing 3 hunts a year. Let's do 6, So, we, and then yes, I definitely understand how important it is and how lucky I am. And even like Bruce Hudala, he lost his dad. I think Bruce was like 8 years old, and you hang around people like that, like I hunted with when I met Bob Dixon, I met him on a hunt, at Will Walker's place at Cottonwood Farms. And I met his son, Will, who was at the time, I think, in high school. And, I got to meet all these great people and got to meet Bob and be there at the, towards the end of his life. And, so you think about all those things, you definitely realize, that how important it is and how lucky you are. I guarantee I've lived 3 lifetimes, so I don't need to do any more, but I'm going to keep on as long as I can. I'm going to keep on doing it.
There you go.
Wow. That's good. That's good stuff. And it always amazes me, and I shouldn't be amazed, but hunting and fishing are just great venues for people to spend time together and create these cherished memories.
I've said that forever. I used to, when we'd have customers or whether it be retailers or licensees or whatever in camp, and I would always just like make sure and kind of point out for their own awareness, like, business can come and go and things could change, but the friendships that you make in the outdoors, especially hunting, last forever no matter what happens. It's and fishing too.
Yeah.
There's nothing like it.
That's right. All right, Paul.
They really do. I mean, it's amazing.
I have to say, listen to him. Obviously my dad's become extremely famous in his very, very extended old age. And, the wild turkeys kept him alive. There's no way he'd be here today if it wasn't for having that next season to look forward to for so many years. 5-10 years ago, probably. So what a gift that hunting gave us and all the family. He's still hanging on. It's tough right now, but at the same time, he still is giving him something to look forward to,
Yeah, that's good stuff.
I took my dad down to I'm sorry. I was going to tell you, I drug my dad down to Florida last year, and we got an Osceola turkey with his crossbow. And I'm thinking, boy,
That's
I might have bit
crazy.
off more than I could chew on that. But it was great. We hunted with a good friend down there, Steve Brown from Mississippi. And luckily, we got him on the first day because I didn't know about getting him up every morning at 4 a.m., But yeah, he ended up killing one with his crossbow, and I videoed the whole thing. It's on my YouTube channel. It's really cool. But yeah, it's all. Yeah, you start talking about all the things that we've done, and just more memories keep popping up. We could probably talk for 4 hours on that,
Yeah. And speaking of YouTube, I was trolling through your account earlier, and I found a video of a very young Paul Korn and a very young Bobby Cole talking about food plots. So if any listeners want to get a good laugh, go check that one out. It's pretty funny.
Yeah, Bobby Cole back then, he probably thought a food plot was a spread at a restaurant somewhere.
Yeah, Paul, did you have? I probably had more hair than you had back then. So.
Well, I that's not saying a lot, but that's not saying a lot.
All right, so here's what we're going to do. We want to talk, and we've got two northern guys. I'm not going to say.
Don't be Mason Dixon, prejudiced.
Well, and we've got 4 guys down here we want to talk about bows, shooting tactics, trends, what's going on in that kind of world. But we can see if there's a difference in the northern mentality and the southern mentality, and there may be. But, Paul, before we do that, I'm going to turn it loose to Dudley. We've got this thing called rapid fire. You have to get on the edge of your seat there in the closet and get ready. Dudley will have some questions. It's brought to you by our friends at Nutrient Ag Solutions. So go ahead, Dudley.
Yeah, so Paul has done this before. I don't know if you remember that, but...
it was embarrassing. I'm like, it was embarrassing when I did it before.
I'll try not to embarrass you as much.
I couldn't get Alaska. Remember that? I talked about Alaska, and you're like... the answer was Alaska, whatever the question was, and everybody that watched that podcast, they were screaming back at their phone, Alaska, and I'm like, oh.
Yeah, I think you're the only one to have ever missed that. So
yeah, that was what state has the most coastline? Was that the question?
I can't remember.
I still don't know how, but you know how it happens.
All right, are you ready?
Yes.
What do you think about boiled peanuts? Yes or no? You like them?
I think no.
Okay.
They're mushy, and I think it's kind of like one of the things you have to acquire a taste for, and Yankees don't like that.
Have you ever arrowed a deer from the house or the cabin?
No. Close, but no, not from the house.
In all your days of bow hunting, have you ever gone through a heavy draw weight phase?
Oh God, yeah.
So what's the heaviest you've ever set a bow?
Well, for myself, probably just under 90 pounds. Yeah. Yeah. Elephant hunting, for whitetails.
Right. Have you ever fallen from a tree with or without a harness on?
I fell one time a little ways putting one up.
Okay.
But no, that's the worst. I haven't, amazingly, I haven't hurt myself from a tree stand, but I've fell, a tree step pulled on me about, I was like maybe head high or something like that, and I hit the ground and I got up and I was okay. But it was a great eye opener. Let's just say.
Well, we're glad you're still here. Do you still have an old
Yeah,
bow?
exactly.
Do you still have an old bow hanging up that has an overdraw on it?
Yes.
I bet some of our younger listeners don't even know what that is. Are you okay with taking frontal shots on deer? Yes or no?
No. I mean, no. I guess no, I'm not.
Okay.
No.
Current favorite broadhead for whitetails?
Actually, it's the Rage Trypan Hypodermic. I like the older ones with the original stamped blades. So they don't make them anymore. So I bought like 7 cases of them when they stopped.
All right. If
So I
anybody's
have enough. I mean, yeah.
if anybody's got some old ones, send them to Paul. What stand type do you hunt out of most these days? You know, lock on, ladder,
Well,
saddle.
yeah. Well, actually, no, not saddle, but it would be a lock on. It used to be a climber till I was probably in my mid 40s, about 15 years ago. But then when we started filming hunts, it was a lot easier to use the hang on. So like the lone wolf with a set of sticks, but so yeah, it would be like a set of sticks and a lone wolf or just any type of hang on.
Okay, if you were hunting and a really big mature albino buck walked in, would you be weirded out about shooting that, or would you just send an arrow as quickly as you could?
If it was legal, I would be on him like a bum on a ham sandwich.
What is your favorite state to chase whitetails other than your home state?
Well, it used to be Missouri, but I haven't hunted here since 2013 because I now worked myself into a full-time job guiding. But I would say, honestly, I like Texas because I can bring my dad down there and we can sit on a corn feeder. You can't do that anywhere else. And so I can get him close and not have to walk a long ways, and I can sit there with him. But Texas has been really fun over the last few years, bringing my dad down there.
Okay,
And my
excellent.
wife too. She loves hunting down there.
Quiver on or quiver off?
Quiver on the bow, end of discussion. Never take it off.
Love it. I was going to ask if you turkey hunt with a bow. I think I know the answer to that. And last but not least, how many Robin Hoods have you had in your lifetime?
Oh, a lot. I don't know, a lot, but
I mean, that's
I
like
say
hole in
that, like,
ones. You got to have a number.
oh God, a lot. But no, listen, I maybe shot maybe 3 or 4 with aluminum arrows, where they're swaged on the nock end and where you really, a true Robin Hood has to go right down the middle. Now, carbon arrows with the nock in there, I mean, I literally used to be able to just do that. I could, I could get a Robin Hood, like maybe in, I don't know, 20, 30 shots or something like that. But the old aluminum arrows, if you shot a Robin Hood on that was the hard way to do it, But I don't normally shoot at the same spot, although I probably can now because I'm not I can still shoot pretty good, but I'm not like I used to be, where I could, where I couldn't aim at the same target at 20 yards because I'd start cracking and wrecking my arrows,
Okay.
I watched Cuz do it one time.
Yeah.
With aluminum arrows.
It's cool when it happens.
I got one more.
All right. What is it?
Yeah, because I went to Wisconsin
Yeah.
4 years in a row. Toughest hunting I
Yep.
think I've ever done. I learned so much up there, but I need to know cheese grits or cheese curds.
Cheese curds.
Cheese curds.
I'll take some
Did you
cheese.
get that?
I'll take some cheese
Yep.
curds in my grits. How
Yeah.
about that?
I loaded
that
my
would-
bow case up with cheese curds the first time I went up there. I got some. It was the first time I'd ever had them. And I was taking stuff out of my bow case and stuffing cheese curds in that bow case and got them all the way back to Mississippi.
Oh, man,
I'm
they
a
know-
big,
they know
I
how to
love
make
cheese
'em.
grits too, with them cheese curds in Wisconsin. Wow.
Oh boy, yeah.
Those things
They're
are
good.
awesome. Good stuff.
Wow.
Perfect
yeah.
bite size too.
Yeah, that's good. All right, so let's turn our attention. Let's start talking. So let's kind of get you in the A1 Archery mindset there in the bow shop. Are you seeing trends right now? Are people going faster or heavier, or what's going on?
Yeah, there's always trends going on, of course, which, and it's kind of interesting being in this industry for 3+ decades. It's funny how you keep seeing the same trends, like coming back. They, this thing comes up, like, for instance, heavy front over center arrows or heavy arrows or fixed broadheads. And you'll see this trend where all of a sudden it's like this new thing because you haven't seen it in a half a decade or whatever. The heavy arrow and the front over center were a big thing, and everybody. I mean, it was the whole thing. Not that we hadn't seen it before or whatever, but it seems like that's kind of faded away this year. Like in the north, I don't know what it's like, down south, but up at A1, that trend is kind of going back the other way to a more like 400 grain arrow or slightly under, where you get the speed benefit, of the arrow, and not shooting the great big heavy stuff with 20% front over center because, somebody did a YouTube video and showed that it goes in an inch further or whatever, or they're getting better penetration. So that's the big thing, and then like for arrows and broadheads, of course, every year it's arrows and broadheads are always big things. Broadheads, the trend, last year that Bomar came out with the Beast broadhead, and there's been a lot of traction on that. People seem to be shooting them. I haven't used them. We've had a lot of customers that have used them. They seem to work when I don't know if you guys ever messed with one of them, but when you cock it, they give you like little finger condoms to put on, and you got to squeeze that thing down, and it kind of freaks you out cocking it, but they seem to work good. But anyways, that's doing really good. Rages have always been real strong. The Rage hypodermics and the Rage, just the regular, Rage chisel points. Every kind of Rage broadhead, that rear deploying detractable is real big. I'm trying to think. Saddles have made a comeback over the last few years, and they have really seemed like they've taken hold this time. Because, I'm sure you guys, saddles have come and gone and come and gone and come and gone. And all of a sudden, a few years ago, the saddle thing took off. And I think they've really got some nice options for the saddles, and a lot of people are using it. And I'll tell you, that's probably the most exciting trend or, thing that's happened in both the archery shop and down here outfitting. I mean, the fact that somebody can so simply and quickly and easily, make a transition where they've seen a buck over, 50 yards that way, and they can just jump up with their saddle. That has been kind of a cool. So, and even some of, like, I got a guy last year, he's seen a deer, and I go, can you hang a lock on over there or whatever? He goes, no, I got my saddle. This guy's like 60 years old, which, not saying 60 is old, because that might be how old I am, And anyways, and I'm thinking, what the heck, a 60-year-old guy's not going to be, swinging from a rope out of a tree, Oh man, I love that thing. It's so comfortable. I can set it up, and so I've probably heard about them more than, and I've never actually used one, full disclosure, but it's pretty crazy how many people are coming with saddles now, and how successful they've been. Here, it's hot, like right now, and I had a guy the last 2 years just hunted by ponds when it was hot, and he killed 2 nice bucks 2 years in a row. And he told me what pond he was by, and I go, man, there's a tree down there big enough? And he's like, yeah, we went down there to get the deer. And he goes, yeah, it's that tree right there. I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty sure that's, it was cleaned out, and it was about as big around as my wrist. And I'm like, yeah, but he crawled up there with a saddle and took that deer. So yeah, so that's kind of been, the broadheads. There's some different broadheads and stuff out there too, like the Speed broadheads is a new one this year. That I have never used it. There's people in camp that have it. I'm looking forward to see how they do, in the field on the deer and stuff like that. But that's kind of the trends that I've been seeing.
That whole conversation is a testament to Mountain Dew. He never took a breath the whole time.
Right. It's right.
Because
I told Richie, I said, how long do you think this is going to take? He goes, well, it could go an hour and a half to 2 hours. And I said, boy, if you can shut me up after an hour and a half, you'll get some kind of award.
Because have you hunted from a saddle yet?
No, I'm much older than Paul is, and I've looked at him and all that. And each year, my height gets lower and my poundage gets lower.
Yep.
And I'm okay with that.
Yep.
Now I got some grandsons that are they're fascinated with that stuff. They've got a couple and they're looking by. It's like, I'm not the guy. I just ain't. My days of meeting you at the trailhead and going in with a camp on my back they're gone. They're just done, and I'm
Yeah.
okay with that.
Yep.
I'm absolutely loving it.
Yeah. And the same thing with me. I've had to reduce my pound. I mean, I'm shooting 65 pounds now, and I was, a lot of times every couple of years I'd go to Africa, and it seems like I was hunting some larger game, elk and moose and giraffes, and stuff like that. And so I wanted to I finally got to where 70 pounds is too much. I know that if I go a week without shooting my bow and I pull a 70 pounder back, I might have to go to the doctor or the chiropractor or something. But I've, it's just, I want to be a little closer and my poundage is a little less. But you know what? You just kind of adapt. And I'm trying to shoot a bow. I have nothing against crossbows. That's another trend. If you want to, I guess I can't believe I didn't think of that earlier. But even the people, switching from bows to crossbows, it's amazing. And I imagine it's probably like that in the South too. I don't know, but there's a lot of people that, like able-bodied, healthy people that are going all in on the crossbows. And matter of fact, to the point where this year I said, if you're under 50 and you're physically able, there's an extra charge for the crossbow. This is supposed to be a bow hunting place. And I mean, I don't want to discriminate against somebody that, like my dad's 81 years old. He's not going to shoot a bow. He hasn't shot a bow in years. And I know at some point I'm going to have to go to the bow. But I mean, there's a lot of people that are bringing ravens and 10 points and missions and, 25-year-old kids. Well, hey, we can call them kids when they're 25, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's cheating. I have shoulder problems now, and I think pulling too much weight is one of the reasons why, for so long, is one of the reasons why.
Right.
But let me explain. I have a very short draw length compared to most of you guys. So I was pulling 92 pounds for many years.
Right.
I watched my buddy Ray Howell on the old PSE advisory staff. You know, he's shooting 100-pound PSE gorillas, and at 100 yards, he'll knock a pop can off a hay bale every time. And for me to get the same amount of energy, I simply can't get the same amount of energy on my arrow as he does. So I pulled too much weight for too long. So my shoulder's screwed up now, and I am so sad. I bought a crossbow, but I feel like I'm cheating.
That's okay.
Well, you need it. You need it if you need it. And on the Ray Howell thing, he's a good friend of mine. And I'll tell you what, I went on a muskox hunt probably 25 years ago, and Ray offered to borrow me his Arctic expedition suit. And I looked at that bugger. That was back when his arms were about the size of my head, like his forearms, And I thought, that thing is too big for me. And boy, I wish I would have borrowed that. But yeah, Ray's a great guy, and I've known him for a long time, But the big thing is, not only were you pulling a lot of poundage, but the bows back there were, they didn't cancel out the forces with the limbs that laid back, And so now, you've got these, this more ergonomic bow. They're just a lot easier on you. So we're kind of lucky in that refrain. But if we had to shoot them old PSEs and high countries and Jennings Carbon Extremes, I sold tons of those. Somebody will bring one of them old buggers in, 60 pounds, and you'll shoot it and you'll swear Bobby hit you with a baseball bat in the shoulder when it goes off, So we kind of had equipment that wanted to jerk your arm out when you shot it anyway. And then, of course, we had to run, hundreds of thousands of arrows through our body, and it's making it so. But luckily, the bows now there's so many nice bows, and they're so, they're so easier on your body. Turn the poundage down a little bit, and they're dynamically efficient. Even at 65 pounds, I get plenty. I get way in the high 60s on my energy, so.
Absolutely. I'm just debating whether I want to get the rotator cuff surgery or still try therapy, but I think I'm going to have to go for it.
Right. I get it.
Toxie, it looked like you had something you wanted to add a minute ago.
I was waiting for one of them to take a breath, and I ran out of breath waiting on them. No, I was just going to comment, you don't need the poundage. I mean, not to look back in time, but I think you probably wish you didn't shoot so much poundage. It's not worth it to people out there to be doing that anymore. Especially, and then tear your shoulder up for later. There was once a day when I was like 80 something probably.
Yep.
We had the
was a 33-inch arrow with 5-inch feathers on
That's
it.
right, it sure did.
Yeah, we used
coached by you to get that way too.
Well, that's all.
We were both shooting over 80 pounds back then.
That's all we had. Homemade overdraws, and it was crazy. And they are so much better now. I'm down to like
absolutely
58 pounds.
That's about right, me. 58, maybe 60.
If I wake up in a different mood, I may be on 55 by the time bow season opens up because it shoots great.
It's unbelievable.
I'm a 20-yard guy.
The technologies are just.
And
how do they keep? I asked myself, how do they keep on? Because maybe 10 years ago, I was like, they cannot take this any further, and they just continue to. I guess great engineers and great intentions just keep on making progress.
That's one of the things that's so impressive about Paul is going way back when he was on that amazing run, that equipment. I put a clip up of M.R. James the other day. I filmed him in the early 90s or 89, something like that. And he was shooting this old Jennings bow with like 2-inch round wheels. And the first comment was like, what is that bow? Does that actually work? And I answered him saying, hey, at the time, that was state of the art. And that's what you had to use back then. That's some impressive stuff because you had to have 70 or 80 pounds.
Yeah, and a lot of work to the bows. I used to take brand new bows out of the box and completely rebuild them. Oversized axles, put spacers to keep the wheels or cams from moving side to side. Limb pockets. I'd take the limb bolts out, Loctite them, put shims to keep the limbs from moving. I mean, I even recabling bows before they came up with a yoke system where you had different slots. But yeah, I would literally sometimes spend 6, 7, 8 hours on a bow to get it built. And then I'd have it hanging on the wall there. And then I'd leave and Dan Ellis would come in and sell it. Some guy came in and he liked it. I'm like, what? I got to shoot this weekend, But now you take a bow out of the box and oh my Lord. They're just, put the rest on it, set the center shot on it. They're just so much better. All the slop was taken out of the systems and just, even I remember back talking to Henry Gallup. He's an engineer. I think he's still at Matthews. He was at Jennings. And I remember telling him, man, why don't you put bearings in the cams? Because I'd wear the bushings out of them. And he told me, oh, man, bearings are overkill for a bow. And I'm like, bearings are overkill for a bow. I'm like, so anyways, Matthews came out with it in the idler wheel on top. Then eventually they started putting them down below. And it's like, there's some things that you knew were going to happen, and then you're talking about the technology of the bows and how you think they can't get any better. Computers have helped with that a lot too, because they can actually have a computer, get the cam designed, so that it's very dynamically efficiency and the limb moves a little bit before the cam and everything preloads nice and they're stable. And, so there's been with the engineering and great companies and the software and the people they have, it's like, yeah, you think it can't get any better, but then you pick up a bow that's 6 years old and you're like, wow, they're better now,
And no string silencers. That used to be like, I would buy them 144 to the box. They're puffy balls, or they finally went to cat whiskers. And I was interviewing a guy for a podcast the other day, and they said, why don't you ever see that stuff? He just rolled his eyes. He said, cuz, have you shot a new bow? And I went, no, not really. He said, they don't need them. But it was cool to see, especially some of your old photos.
Them fuzz balls, I used to do them all the time. I remember them fuzz balls, putting them on all the time at the archery shop. Every bow you set, you were replacing them all the time, and I forgot how they went on now. I remember you'd snap the string and they'd kind of puff out, they kind of fray or whatever. But I remember, man, just putting on hundreds of those things,
Yeah, it was a different day, and they are a lot better. And it's crazy to see how far advanced they are, but it keeps me. I'm much older than you are, and I'm looking forward to opening day. And that's special, just like your dad hunting. I mean, if he wants to use a crossbow, more power to him. I don't care what you use.
Absolutely.
It's amazing, and no other place like it out there. And the bow hunting part's just different. And
yeah, for sure.
So, Paul, what are you seeing in sights? What are people liking the most these days?
Well, there's a lot of people that are going to the Garmin. The Garmin, the zero sights, the rangefinder, drop a pin. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, or hopefully. But Garmin came out with a sight a few years ago, and it'll tell you if you're torquing the bow. It lines everything up, and actually up to 100 yards, you sight this thing in, and if there's a deer at 70 yards or 50 yards or whatever, you just hold the button down, and it tells you the yardage, and it just drops a single pin in there. And it's not legal in a lot of there's quite a few states that it's not legal in. You can use it like in Alaska if you're hunting during a firearm season, but if it's a bow, strictly an archery area, you can't use it. So, but I actually had one for a couple of years, and I did use it, like mule deer hunting and spot and stalk hunting, which it seemed like a great thing for that, because you know what it's like, you're crawling, on your belly, and the thing gets up and goes boing, 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 and stops, and you guess and shoot over it or under it or whatever, and then you go, dang, I wish I would have known how far that was. But have you guys heard of the Garmin sights?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah. So that's a big deal, but I'll tell you what, that's a whole can of worms. You don't want to talk about putting a computer on your bow. Like when you go from a simple, man, I draw back, and like, you guys that have been doing it for a while, you draw back, you anchor, and you put that, when we started, we didn't even have fiber optic pins. We had a paint on the end of there, and you remember when somebody came up with the paint that glowed?
Oh yeah,
like, we've reached the pinnacle, right?
Cuz had a Mipperlite.
Yeah, a bunch of them.
Exactly.
Oh.
And then, but anyways, so just a simple fiber optic. I shoot a 3-pin adjustable sight. I got my 20, 30, 40. And I've been doing it so long, and I actually I don't like the real bright fibers, because they really starburst on me, and they look really funny. And the Garmin sight, I kind of had a problem with that part of it too. It was like, when you're aiming, when you're an archer and you're aiming, the object that you're trying to hit, be it a target or a deer or an elk or whatever, a bear, turkey, whatever, you have to focus on the object, and the pin is secondary. You know what I mean? So you're focusing on that object, the pin is secondary. And so the pin's a little blurry, and it kind of, it's not, you can't look at the pin and put the pin on the target. It'll make you panic, it'll give you panic. So you focus on the target, and the pin is secondary. For me, the Garmin sight, it was very hard for me to make the target primary and the pin secondary, if you know what I mean. I felt like I was looking into like a glass tunnel, or like into a scope, or it was very, very weird for me, and very uncomfortable. And part of it might have something to do with, just how long I've been doing this and what I'm used to.
Yeah.
I got my system, and I feel comfortable doing it. And so I have to range. I still have a rangefinder around my neck, but I was not enjoying that. Now, there's a lot of people that do, and I don't knock anybody who does anything, but I finally figured out a computer in my sight. I can do without that. You know what I mean? It just was a lot simpler for me to go back to what I know and not have to think about and not worry about the dang thing, the battery going dead. I mean, can you imagine the battery goes dead and you can't shoot? I mean, you guys would probably laugh me right out of my closet.
I have a simple method, Bobby.
Yes.
If the deer is further than I can flip a biscuit underhanded, he's out of range.
That's a good one.
One pin. I like that 20 yards, sometimes 21, 22. And Paul he'll probably disagree with this, but I've always said, because I was in the archery store forever, and if you kept a journal of every archery kill from the time you started to the time you quit, I would bet 90% of those would be 20 yards and in. That's just my thought.
Yeah,
now, that's a Mississippi thing, and that's kind of how we set up.
I'll tell you what, outfitting, we hunt 4 months out of the year here. And I'll tell you what, when you get, it's amazing the difference. And I used to keep pretty good statistics, but I haven't done it in quite a few years now. But it is amazing once you get over 20 yards, how it, like from 20 yards on in, if somebody shoots at a deer 20 yards on in, it seems like 90% of them we get.
Yep.
Like they hit them and we recover them or whatever. And then when you go from 20 to 30, it drops. It starts to drop, especially if people are using their 20-yard pin and the thing's 25, 20, you got going for you, the deer's probably going to duck. But when you get over 30 yards, the numbers fall off the cliff. I mean, even with all the technology and all the stuff and the speed and everything that we have, when you get over 30 yards, I'm telling you guys, it falls off a cliff.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things out there that make it quicker, and things are right. They're pretty much set up. You just got to tweak it a little bit to sight it in.
Because I think your bow came out of the box sighted in, didn't it?
It was so close. I got one of those Gamekeepers, and I got it out of the box, and I called Bobby, and I was like, "You're not going to believe this thing." And it was at my draw length and had 3 pins on it. The top pin was a couple inches off, and I love that thing. It's on like 58 pounds. I killed 3 deer with it last year. All those
nice.
inside of 20 yards. But I was like, yeah, it's just amazing. And it took 10 minutes literally to take it out of the box and get it dialed in. Love it.
Yeah. So, we're real proud of that. I tell you the thing, and we'll move on after this, but I'm so proud they have a kids version. And I mean, we get a lot of feedback from dads that now their son or their daughter this little bow just fits them perfect. Toxie, you went through that. Trying to find a bow to fit kids is hard.
Yes, it is. And it performs too. So.
Yeah. So, Paul, I've always wanted to ask somebody that really knows about shooting, but when you get it full draw, do you take your pin from above the animal down to the kill zone, or from below the animal, do you bring it up, or does it even matter?
So if I understand, my process is I always aim under the deer.
Yep.
So I draw it on. Like a lot of people are overbowed, I think, and they have to point the thing up in the air to get it drawn back. Then they come down to the target. I try to draw back with as little movement as possible, and I aim like at the feet of the deer, and I draw back that way, and then always coming from the bottom up,
right?
Because especially if you're excited, and you're going to pull the trigger a little bit early. There's nothing worse than if you aim go from the top, and you get a lot of people, I believe, they get on the animal and they don't quite get to the middle of it, and they get excited and they shoot.
Well, you
want to be below the center.
Yeah.
You want to be at the, splitting them in thirds. You want to be at the top of the bottom third. And if you don't get there and that deer drops a little bit, it happens. It still happens. It happens so much. So I think, and you should train yourself on your targets when you shoot. Every time you shoot, always do everything the same. Get that muscle memory built, and draw back at its feet and then come up. And if you get really excited and you only get 2 inches onto that deer, you're probably going to get him if you have the yardage right and it's close enough.
Is that how you do it, Toxie?
No, yeah, for different reasons. I definitely always come from bottom up, no matter what it took to draw, because I want to be able to keep eye contact exactly what the deer's doing all the time. If you're above that, it's blocked out. You can't even see them, and it's kind of a mystery. So to me, it means a lot, even in those seconds, to know exactly what's going on with the deer. If it might be fixing to be on alert, maybe fixing to take a step or whatever. I just think it's so much better to come from below up for the reasons he said too, but especially so you need to keep, all the way through the process, you need to keep eye contact with the deer.
Because do you have a favorite way of doing it?
No, I always start below and come up.
Yes.
And I went through a period, and Paul, I don't know if Paul's ever had, but I went through a period we were shooting a lot of NFAA stuff. And I, for some reason, got in the habit of coming above and dropping down, and I got target panic. And it got so bad with me, I found a book on target panic, and I read it, I don't know, 2 or 3 times, and finally overcame it. But one of the big things I did was starting below and easing up and putting a target on the backside of it was crazy. So
what are some other important points on technique? I have to say that I had a coach at one time. I got pretty good with a bow. 40 yards, I could hit this, bullseye size of a pop can pretty much every time. I had a coach just teach me some simple things about technique, and it went from the bottom of a pop can to the size of a quarter in 2 weeks, just by no more wrist torque and stance and how I was doing specific things, and it really improved my shooting. What are some important things about technique?
Well, good habits, right? Like practice is supposed to make perfect, but unfortunately it makes permanent. And I think, jumping back a little bit to the last conversation, I think a lot of people, when they shoot in their yard or when they start shooting, they're shooting too heavy. And when they pull back, they point the thing up in the air and then now the habit is to go from the top down, and going from the bottom up is, I think, between all the benefits that, that we both talked about, it really makes a lot of sense to do that. So, building those really good habits. I like to think about, if I'm having target panic is, I'm assuming that you went to a pro shop or you have a friend or somebody that can set your bow up so that everything is set up correctly and your bow is tuned. Because, if that doesn't happen, if your draw length's too long, your bow's out of tune, your arrows aren't properly spined, probably whatever you do, it's going to be hard to get to that, you hitting the quarter every time, right? So once you get to that stage of the game, where your bow is set up and everything, and you're probably, and that you can't, torquing the bow, maybe you had to adjust the grip, but torque is something that I always look at a lot. In some bows, a lot of people, if they had a really bow that they liked, they'll say, I used to have this PSE and I could shoot the daylights out of that thing. Odds are they probably didn't torque it because of the grip, because of the cam, because of the axle, whatever it was. So, but I like to think, I guess, if I start to get target panicky, that's probably my biggest issue. And as we get older and a little shakier, your brain wants to speed up and you want to shoot. But I focus on breathing and something other than aiming. And I don't care if it's like putting the same amount of weight on both feet. It's kind of weird. You go back next time you feel panicky, think about and all of a sudden you'll feel like almost like, it's hard to balance. It's like, okay, I'm a little, I'll try to get the same amount of weight on each shoot. Now my brain is thinking about that. And luckily my brain can't do too much at one time, and then the pin's just laying right on the target and I can execute a shot, so, I think everybody comes up with little tricks or little things to, to try to, get them settled in and relaxed. And then the last podcast we did, we were talking about the moment of truth. We talked a lot about that. And I talk about that all the time. I like to focus on breathing. And I film a lot of people. I've been around a lot of people. I watch a lot of, video and just hear a lot of stories. And I think people tend to hold their breath when they get excited. And I just focus on getting, if you're excited, it's okay. He's at the right yardage and he needs to turn a little bit. Just focus on breathing. Get lots of oxygen into your brain, because if you're sitting there trying to be quiet and still and you're holding your breath, all of a sudden you're going to do something crazy. A lot of things can happen and most of it ain't very good. You know what I mean? But so, I mean, that would probably be, just off the top of my head. There's a lot more to it than that, but there were some things that can help people,
Sure.
What about your anchor point or your anchoring? It seems like folks are not, they're trying to touch the string less or with less pressure these days.
It makes a lot of sense. The let off is getting higher. It's easier to torque the string one way or the other. I like to come back, and when I come back, I literally just barely touch my nose to the string and keep everything clean so it can break straight away. And honestly, if you have left to right problems when you're shooting, it's going to be something. Your draw length, you're torquing the bow, people that pull that thing right into their face and it comes out and around, if you do it the same every time, right, it's not going to matter. But now you put a face mask on and now it's cold, or now you got an extra jacket on, and, but like practicing with all your stuff and being able to replicate what you do in practice, is going to be very important, but yeah, the let off, the new bows, it seems like, man, like you're hardly holding anything and it's very easy to torque that string away. So, just very lightly touch it into your anchor point and, and focus on aiming,
So I've always picked it up a long time ago, maybe because taught me this too, but I've been with 32.5-inch draw. Maybe it's a little shorter now. I had trouble getting a bow long enough and all, but I got sloppy at one time, and it was because the bow was a little too long. And someone had said, I think actually it was Pete Shepley told me, always shoot a bow about a 1/2 inch shorter than your draw length. And I kind of stuck by that since then, and it's helped me out a lot. So, I mean, the sloppiness.
You can bend your arm a little. Yeah, it's
right.
Great advice, Yeah, always err on the
bad.
side of short.
Yeah, just a little bit. Yes.
Yep.
So, Paul, you run an archery shop, or you're part of an archery shop. You probably, let's just pretend you're not trying to sell a bunch of accessories to somebody. But if a guy comes in there to buy a bow, are there certain things that you just that hey, you have got to have this? And I mean, what are some of those things that you just feel like are absolute must-haves?
For the bow, well, I'm a very big, and I still get a lot of flack about this, but I love the simplicity of a whisker biscuit, because I don't have to worry about my arrow falling off the rest. And like, still people look at me and I get the side eye sometime. And
Hey,
I'm like,
cousin,
dude,
I both shoot them.
Yeah, I do too.
I
All
don't
of
need
us.
the complication trying to, you're tying that, drop away rest to your cable, and now you're pulling on that. And then like people here, I mean, there's so simple. And I've been shooting the biscuit for a long time. I mean, when they first came out, I started shooting it, and man, I got a lot of I went on a hunt with Randy Ulmer for stone sheep. We did a 2-on-1 guided years, I think 2005. And I pulled my bow out of the case, and he's like, "You really shoot that?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I do." And we went to the range and we shot, and he's like, "Wow, you shoot that pretty good." I'm like, "Well, I'm not as good as you, but I can keep it in a sheep maybe, But I like to have my quiver on my bow, and I like to have a 3-pin adjustable sight. I really do not want to shoot over 40 yards, but on a follow-up I will. So I got a 20, 30, 40, and I've got I like more the like the HHA, the older HHA style, and like the Montana Black Gold, where their pins aren't so bright. You can put a little light behind them, but all the new pins, even like the new Matthews sight, that pin is so bright. I swear to God, it's like I'm looking in a flashlight or something. It's too, under just regular ambient lighting conditions, it's so bright. It looks, so I kind of have my stuff, and I know a lot of people are going to handheld releases, and I guess they say it, if they shoot better, kudos to them, but there is obviously issues that can happen because you can drop it, or there's things that can happen with it. And I don't like where I can't see my trigger either. Like with a trigger release, I like to, it's like kind of hidden back out of the way and you're feeling for it. Once again, it's just probably going back to, I guess, 45 years of shooting bows and arrows and, doing all that stuff. And what I do works. And every time I try to change to that stuff, I end up scrapping it, and I put my stuff on that I feel comfortable with. And the other one is like, I'll bet you 90% of the people, or maybe more, take their quivers off the bow. And I've never, ever, and I don't know if I will ever understand that, why you would ever do that. I mean, people drop their quivers out of the tree. I know there's probably some benefits. It's definitely not accuracy. I really don't believe that the accuracy is, maybe your bow's a little quieter because you don't have arrows rattling in there or whatever. But the analogy that I always use is, if you have a 30-06 or a 270 and you crawl up in your deer stand and you put your clip in there and you eject the shell in there, do you take the clip out and put it in your pocket after you get one in the chamber? I mean, of course you don't do that, but why would you load your arrow in the bow, then take the quiver off and hang it in the tree? And I'll tell you another thing, like he was talking earlier, when you shoot a deer and you need a follow-up shot, if you got to reach back behind you to grab an arrow out of the quiver, you want to keep your eyes on that deer and just grab, you can kind of just, off out of your peripheral vision, grab an arrow and knock it up and follow them if you need a follow-up shot or you need something like that. I mean, I've shot enough animals to where I've been very grateful to get that second shot. And if I'm, drop my quiver or I'm trying to reach behind me, then I'll run that scenario to people and they'll say, well, I take an arrow out and I have it where it's handy. There's nothing handier than you're a right-handed shooter and your arrow's right here. And you don't have to take your eyes off the animal, and you can, really, you panic, I think, but I mean, people, I don't know. I don't get the taking the quiver off the bow. I don't know if I'll ever, I actually you can actually look it up. I do a YouTube video on it where we talked, on the quiver versus off the quiver. And I get it. If the bow's in your lap and the quiver's down, maybe it's a little uncomfortable or you don't like that or whatever, but I'm trying to figure out a really good reason to take it off. And in my 45 years and whatever 800 animals I've shot, I could not really find a good reason to take the quiver off yet.
The great Gabby Hayes in an old Western movie once one of his lines was, "You darn fool, you run out of bullets."
Yep.
Yeah.
If you got them with you, you'll run out.
I'll have to admit, I'm one of those. I take my quiver off.
I would think, like, if you've got white wraps and all that, I wouldn't want that in front of my bow when I'm trying to move around. Right. But I think I may try to convert. I mean, it makes sense. Like, having an extra arrow handy is more important, or having a whisker biscuit to where your arrow doesn't fall off is more important than that half of a centimeter difference at 40 yards when you're hunting.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
My only thing is I've taken it off forever, because at first I was like, and cousin others was like, you have to. I didn't even question why. But I mean, at the time too, with the quivers weren't as good and well done and mounted, and they did rattle just the quiver even without an air in it. And then aluminum air sticking out there. So I just took it off to get it out of the way myself.
Yeah.
I see the point about having another bullet handy real quick, but you can also easily, I mean, it's just taking the time to do it, because when you first get in the stand, it's by far the least likelihood anything else going on. You've got a little time getting settled. And because I always screwed in a deal and put it right there where it was just as easy to grab an arrow from this as it would be off your bow, maybe easier. So he had them handily right there. So I've always tried to do that, even if I screwed in something to hang them in good sight. Now, if you get up there and you're climbing or whatever, and there's not anywhere handy, I would say for sure, just keep them on the bow. Yeah. I was also told back in the day it would pull your shot a little bit. That may have been bad information. So I never questioned it. I just took it off.
Yeah, and a lot of people, that's real. And with the old quickie quivers, remember them things rattled so
no,
bad.
that's what we shot.
And then remember they put the knob on them so that you could tighten the knob to keep them from, but they still rattled.
Oh, they still made noise.
I think there was two sizes. There was a small and a large, and depending on your deal. So I used to take it off when I had the quickie quiver. You know, when you start doing other hunting too, like elk hunting and caribou hunting and all the spot and stalk things, you know, you do a big wide variety. Then eventually, as the quivers evolved, it seemed to me like it made a lot more sense to, you know, in today's day and age, to leave it on there.
I guess a good point he's making, regardless, if you really want to take it off, whatever, that's fine, but be conscious of keeping it handy where you hadn't got to struggle or reach too far or whatever for the other arrow. Keep it where it's absolutely just as easy as pulling one off the bow. You know?
And we're talking about sitting in a tree stand.
And
that's right. That's correct. In a tree stand. Yeah.
When it's hanging in the tree too, it's not as easy to get it out of the quiver as on your bow. Yep. You know, because you know what I mean, because it's fastened to the bow and you can quickly take it out. But unless you take it out, but usually you got a couple of snaps and the whole quiver wants to move. And I've watched so many people, even turkey hunting, in a blind where they're trying to get a second arrow, because you can shoot more than one turkey a lot of these places. You go to Nebraska, you shoot a turkey, he's flopping he's trying to grab an arrow and it won't come out of the quiver. He's fighting it,
Well, then another thing for me is I had a 32-inch arrow, and a lot of times it was sticking out below my bow.
Right.
And you couldn't do it from the ground. You had to take it off.
No, that makes perfect sense. Yeah.
So Paul, if you've got a guy, then you're in there and you pick up a bow and you're in the store. How do you help me understand what size stabilizer I need? Is there a quick way to figure that out?
Get rid of the stabilizer. I don't use a stabilizer when I hunt, because I hunt a lot out of ground blinds and stuff like that. But I mean, whatever it takes to balance the bow. But I do the very, very, very bare minimum on that. I just want the bow to be. But like having V-bars and all this other stuff, I mean, you need to figure out, especially we're talking about trying to take 30-yard shots or less. Keeping it if you look at my bow, it's very simple. I have a Picatinny rail on my bow for my stabilizer. It just sticks out, like 6 inches, and I have that so that I can put a light on for hog hunting. And but I don't run any V-bars or anything like that. Now, if you want to, if it's important to run a V-bar, you need that for the bow to shoot correctly, and you want to maybe offset the weight of your quiver or something like that. You can do that, but I use a real low profile quiver. It goes right tight to the bow and I can shoot really well with it. I mean, I keep my stuff really simple. I mean, I got a 3-pin adjustable sight that I lock down, a whisker biscuit rest, the quivers are fastened to the bow. I don't have much for stabilizers. Very important, a good loop, hold in, tight and secure. Your peep is tight, and I shoot a 4/16 or a 1/4 inch true peep. And I like the bigger hole, which is probably a something to talk about. But a lot of people like the smaller hole because they think they're more accurate. But you have to fight what you can see. A lot of times we're shooting in low light conditions, and keeping both eyes open or at least blinking them, and looking through a bigger hole. And so my aperture, I have a 2-inch aperture on my sight, and it lines up with my 1/4 inch peep based on the distance between the two. So I can line everything up. I can line my peep up with my aperture. Your eye automatically centers everything. And I literally do not have a problem shooting. So my stuff is pretty simple. I have a little light on there on my pins. If I'm in a blind and it's dark or I can't see very good, it's got a rheostat on it, so I can adjust it down to where my old 60-year-old eyes can see it, But I'm pretty basic on my stuff. I mean, we're in the archery business, and like we sell a lot of stuff, and if people feel that helps them, and maybe I don't know, everybody's different. If they're trying to get more range because they're going caribou hunting, or they're doing something, they're going to spot and stalk mule deer or whatever they think they need to do, that's going to make, 'cause I'm sure there's no doubt it's going to make you a little more accurate at long distances and stuff like that. But I don't do that anymore, and I leave that up to the guys at the shop. Kind of curtail a plan to whoever comes in and what they're looking for.
Sure. I couldn't agree more as far as the KISS principle, which is keep it simple, stupid, or keep it short and simple, or whatever.
Yeah.
I can remember cousin and I had a drilling out the peeps, so we had made them bigger.
Still do it.
Yep.
I've drilled mine out so big I'm scared to death it's going to hit the string going through there. But it's what I need in low light, because that's when the deer around here move. And
I mean, if you practice a lot, your eye's going to be, you're right in the center of it anyway. I had never noticed it any less accurate. I guess if I was the kind of guy trying to take a 60 and 80 yard shot, which I am not ever going to do, unless it's like target archery. It's definitely a big benefit to me to have the bigger peep, for sure.
I goofed around for a month or two last year without a peep, and was surprised that I could still shoot pretty good with it.
I bet.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Hey, Paul, Richie over here on the board has got a question. Richie, well, last year forgot he had a peep sight.
Well,
we were having
about to say, I don't think a peep sight's that important at times,
Yeah, he had one on his bow, and we did our little archery tournament here at the office, and he forgot to look through his peep sight.
Well, I was just such in the zone, I didn't even need it at that point, is what it was.
Go ahead, Richie.
So, practice. So I hear different versions. Guys talk about they practice a lot, shoot every afternoon. Some guys, they'll just take one shot and they'll be done. So from a practice standpoint, what do you look at?
Very minimal. I use TheraBands to keep my shoulders in shape or whatever, but the actual shooting, I would say 3 times a week, 10 arrows. Not very much. 10 really good shots. I mean, that first shot's got to be, if it takes you 2 or 3 shots to get warmed up, you got to rethink your ink. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I would think, with someone experienced as you, I mean, even down to some of us, the reason to shoot that many times is more about keeping your muscles in tone than the practice for being accurate. I mean, that's the biggest reason, although you definitely want to practice, but once you are so good, I mean, the biggest reason, if you aren't able to practice because of where you live, the what you're talking about, the bands and all would be essential to use.
Yep. They really do, and that doesn't give you target panic from repeated trying to focus on a spot and keep trying to shoot, but it's not glamorous. But I used to have one of them deals when I used to own an injection molding company, Prism Plastics. That's where I met Will Primos and did all that work for him, and Will and Jimmy and all the Primos guys. And I had a thing, I don't even know if they make it anymore, but it actually was like a cylinder that went on the inside of your burger button or your burger. Hey, we're old, we're calling it a burger button, right? But anyways, so you would mount the cylinder and it actually went right to your string. So it was like an arrow in a cylinder, and I could draw that thing back and shoot it so you could actually draw, aim, shoot, and there was no arrow in it. But I would sit at my desk for so many hours, and I would literally could stay in practice and just practice, keep my muscles in shape and keep my mind going and just aim and execute. And then when it came time for the real thing, I just, load the arrow up and go, and you're all dialed in.
So how about getting ready for hunting season? We're ready to rock up here in the north. We're already out hunting, but for the guys down south that haven't started yet, sighting in. So all summer long we've been on the range. We're shooting field points, and obviously we pick the same grain broadhead as we do the field point, but you're shooting 125 grain field point that's contained in about a 1/4 inch, right? So, and all the broadhead companies say, oh, flies like a field point, flies like a field point. And I could never get my broadheads to fly into the same holes that my field points were making. And in fact, I have an arrow right here so I can explain this. We found this yesterday. My daughter shot this at a turkey this spring, and we just found it out checking cameras the other day. So you've got that 125 grains contained in a 1/4 inch. Now you've got that 125 grains contained in an 1.25 inches, and it's sticking out further. Doesn't that change the balance point of the shaft, and then thus how Archer's paradox affects the flex of the shaft?
Yeah, absolutely, because it's all physics, right? I mean, if you change the shape or weight just distribution of an object, it's going to do it. How much of a difference does it make is going to depend, on your whole overall setup. There's some people, and there's a lot of people where it's very true, where you can just put that broadhead on there and you can shoot it, and it does shoot the same or close enough to the same where it's essentially the same, right? So, sure. But I mean that's why it's very important to shoot one. You gotta burn one up and make sure that it does do what it's supposed to do, and not assume, because there's a lot of people like, how do they fly? And now fixed heads are a whole different animal. You're talking about a retractable, rear deploying retractable, but on a fixed head, I mean, I had somebody 2 years ago here at TCO shot at a deer, a young guy, and his dad was not very experienced, very nice guy, trying to get his first deer. And he couldn't understand how he missed. He missed a 25-yard shot at this 10-point buck. And I'm like, well, he brought the arrow back, and it was a fixed head. I think it was a Muzzy. It doesn't matter. It was a fixed. I go, well, how do they fly? He goes, well, I don't know. I only ever shot field points. And I'm like, oh my God. So anyways, kind of a goofy story, because I said, hey, if it shoots good with field points, I'm going to screw a rage on. He was going to try to kill a doe in the morning. We're going to leave this deer go overnight. And I'm going to screw this rage on, and you can, do that, because it was already dark after he got back, and we're not going to, and then after you get done hunting in the morning, we'll go shoot your broadheads, and we'll make sure everything's flying good. I'll look at the tune on your bow and all this stuff, And he's like, well, I don't want to shoot that because my neighbor said these broadheads aren't very good. And I said, no, listen, buddy, I don't know about your neighbor, but, like my patience gets a little bit thinner every year as I get older, It's like, I'm like, so but he doesn't like the way these things work. You can't hit a deer with these other ones. And I go, we got to shoot them because they're going to be different. So, there's, another trend that I'd say that's going on in the industry, or in general, just like between, like, especially down here at camp, is that you guys are talking about, going out there and you're all dialed in, and now you're going to shoot your broadheads. And I'm not totally convinced that a lot of people don't do any of that or practice very little. And then, hence going to a crossbow. Well, you go to the crossbow and it's like, well, they shot it 3 times, and they come here. So, man, the days of, I mean, we used to shoot, man, especially up, I know it's a little bit harder for you guys because it's so blazing hot where you live, but in the Midwest, we had nothing better to do. And I had my climbing tree stand out in my yard, and I'd climb up there every day and shoot 30 arrows, climb up in the tree, shoot 5, climb down, climb up again, shoot. Man, people don't practice. I mean, I'm not gonna say everybody, but a lot of them don't practice like they should. It's a lot different. Used to be, everybody shot a lot, but I mean, yeah. I mean, now at the bow shop, all the people will be coming in now because they just dug their bow out of the case from last year, and the string is broke or something. When did that happen? I don't know. It happened over the winter, But they get them out and I swear, like the weekend before they're going to go hunting, they take them out and they shoot. And it seemed like, I don't know what you guys think, but it seemed like, man, like if you're a bow hunter, you were shooting as much as you could all the time. And if you got a new bow, then you really, really pumped it up, because that's probably when I shoot more. When I get my new bow, I will, you get it and then you'll shoot more then. But once it's sighted in, then I go back to just keeping my shoulders in shape and shooting good shots, a few times a week.
We used to call it perfect practice. Practice the exact scenario that so many guys sit in a ground blind, but they've never even drawn their bow while sitting or kneeling or however you're going to be, and you never practice from that elevated platform to know those shot angles and more importantly for us archers, where that arrow is going to exit, not necessarily enter that animal, and just to learn all that kind of stuff and know. You mentioned cold before. You get out there and now all of a sudden you've got a face mask on, but you've never practiced with one on, and you're like me, you like that string to touch your nose, and now you panic because it's impossible. So you got to know that before you get out there.
And really all that stuff, like I tell people, like get out there and practice with your new gear, because your new face mask. I've had people here, and I think I mentioned it on the last podcast, where they come back, they got a new face mask and they can't see through their peep sight, or they got a new safety harness and I couldn't turn to the left because it was, you gotta, if you could just take that stuff up and, get everything organized in your pack. And because we're all, I'm no different than anybody else. When I was talking to Richie earlier today, I said, first time up deer hunting, you get up in the tree stand and you want to pull your grunt call out, and there's a owl hooter in there, from turkey season, and you kind of feel like you're all thumbs in the beginning, just the routine of getting up there and putting in your bow hook and strapping in and putting in, pulling your bow up and where you're going to hang it, and setting your ozonics up or whatever, however you're going to do it. So you kind of got to get in kind of the groove. So, but people we used to do that. We'd be so fired up. Oh my God, bow season's a month away. And every weekend we're out there, climbing in our stand and shooting and, but man, it sure doesn't seem like there's a lot of stuff going on nowadays, and people don't really put the time into it like they used to,
Because what they're saying makes a lot of sense.
Absolutely does. The older I get, I used to practice just like that. And now I'll start probably early August and I'll shoot a dozen arrows, probably 3 days a week, and start getting that muscle retention, whatever it is. And for the last, week and a half, I'd shoot one arrow. I'll go get my one arrow because my target's in the same place, and I'll concentrate on just making the perfect shot. And I think, the older you get, you can probably practice too much, but that's what works for me, as long as you're doing something.
Sure.
And I will not go out there with an owl hooter in case instead of a grunt call. That's priceless right there. So.
You the guys in the South, everybody can hoot with their mouth. So I had to use that, right? Because nobody up north can do it. Nobody. I guarantee you have never seen a Yankee that can owl hoot.
Let me tell you what people up north can do. I told you earlier, I went up there for 3 years hunting with a guy named Joel Slater, public land. And those gigantic, pine forest. It was just the most silent, intimidating thing ever. But I didn't kill anything. I did pass a deer up on the third year, a little 5-point. I wouldn't shoot him. It's because they were having wolf issues and CWD. I didn't want to. But anyway, on a Monday night, we went in, and I can't remember the name of this town in Wisconsin, but I know it had a tornado went through there, and it's got a boat in the middle of the courtyard wrapped around the tree. You can Google it. That's where we went. And they had a little cafe there. This was in Wisconsin. Monday night, we went up there just to eat supper, and the Packers were playing on Monday Night Football, and I've never seen anything like that. There were people in gold and green tuxedos and top hats. It was the wildest. I had more fun watching those people watch the Packers. And I was like, you know what? We may live in Mississippi, they live in Wisconsin. Our accents are a little different. Sometimes the recipes are different, but we're all the same. And I loved it up there. I really did. And I was humbling, but I came home and told my buddies, like, y'all complain about hunting out in the national forest. You need to go up there and get you some of that. Ooh.
Yeah, for sure.
They were probably like, "You guys, listen to this guy talking.
Yep.
Listen to this cuz guy talking."
All right, so Paul, we need to keep this thing moving. We need to let you. I know you got a lot you got to do. We've got a trivia question that was created just for you. Our trivia is brought to our listeners by the Peanut Patch. Paul, we love boiled peanuts. Absolutely. And we're going to send you a little
We'll send
can
you
of them
some
up
since
there.
you like them so much.
Yeah.
You'll love these.
Yeah, you'll get addicted to them, Paul.
I'm full.
We're gonna trade them for some cheese curds. That's
All right.
That's the plan.
Let me tell you, Paul, I'm the same as you. So I thought the texture was a little funny. I don't like the regular ones, but these guys, send them some of the buffalo and the hot ones. They were actually very good. I liked them.
Yeah, we're
I'll
spreading the
try. You
word.
convinced me.
All right, so our listener that is going to win the prize there, Jason Bolin, left a review. A must listen every episode. All right, so here's our question.
Well, and Jason, don't forget, you leave a review like Jason. He just won a prize. So Ryan Kirby, you go to RyanKirbyArt.com. He's got these. Paul, I bet you've seen them. It's a poster, and it helps you age bucks. It shows antler progression, body progression. Cuz we probably need to get you one of those over there for your man cave.
Yeah, that's what I need. I got them grandsons. They're holding out for 180s over there in Chickasaw County. I need one.
It's a great thing. So, that reviewer just won one. I think we've got one more left. So the next reviewer will.
All right. So here we go. What is considered to be the first commercially available compound bow?
Alan?
Oh my goodness.
There we go.
Correct.
Yeah. How about that?
Had a few pulleys on it too, didn't it, cuz?
It looked like a bumper on a '63 Cadillac.
Yep.
It was huge.
He had the patent on it. And everybody was paying royalties to him.
Yep.
He got the patent in 1969.
I was going to say, I knew it was in the 60s, but I thought it was earlier than that. But yeah.
What was the second
That's
one?
cool.
Jennings, I bet.
Well, I think
That would be my guess.
I know. I'm pretty sure for a fact that Tom Jennings lost his company because he refused to pay royalties to Allen.
Wow.
And so if you look that up or whatever, and actually Tom Jennings was inducted into the Bowhunter Hall of Fame, I don't know, probably 10, 15 years ago. Bruce Hudala and I went to the induction. It was pretty fun.
It was Hoyt Jennings, wasn't it, cuz? Wasn't that the Hoyt Jennings?
Tom Jennings.
I mean, I thought Hoyt Jennings was the company at first.
I don't think so.
Never was? Okay.
Well, then wasn't there Ben Pearson was in there somewhere?
That's right.
Yeah, and,
I remember those.
But I looked up. I wondered where did Bear come in this? So Fred Bear started bear archery in 1933, but he didn't do a compound until 1975. Right. That was the Alaskan
Whitetail hunter.
Well, now hang on, Paul. Now you're getting ahead of yourself. So the Alaskan came out in 1975, and I guess it did okay. But 2 years later, he launched the Whitetail Hunter, and the rest is history.
Yep.
That took off.
Yep.
What a great name, Whitetail Hunter, for a bow.
And they sold a lot of whitetail hunters. They were, I mean, I talked to Neil Bias at Bear. He's still there. Which
wow.
He is if you want to get a guy on a podcast and talk about archery, I don't know if you know him or not, but his dad worked for Fred Bear. And Neil, I believe, is the oldest living employee there. And he is, when I get an old recurve or something like that, somebody asks me about it, I'll call him and I'll say, I got this recurve, it's got this on it. And he'll be like, does the coin in it have, bronze around it, or is it painted? And he'll, yep, that's a 1972, Kodiak Hunter. I mean, this guy knows everything. I mean, he's been there forever. I haven't talked to him in a couple of years, but anyways, I got a lot of history on bear from him. And he was up in Michigan when they were in Grayling, and he moved to Florida with them, and he's still in Florida. So there's some great history there with bear archery.
Yeah. Well, this has been a lot of fun, Paul. That we always enjoy talking to you. You're a real character. You're a lot of fun to hang around. So at A1 Archery, if you're in Wisconsin, Tombstone Creek Outfitters, if you're looking for a hunt there in Missouri, they might could sit down and eat with you or something, or have you put them in a tree stand at some point.
Right on.
I really, I follow y'all, and y'all kill some great deer up there.
Yeah.
We really do. We really do. And this is actually our 20th year now that we've been here. And I literally am booked up a year in advance. So I've got such high repeat. A lot of the people, like right now, I have 3 new people here. Last week I had 2, but by the time I get from the middle of October till the end of November, I virtually have no new people. So I stay booked up really, and great people. They've become friends. I mean, most of them are real good friends, and we hunt a lot of different places. We go bear hunting together. We go antelope hunting. We go to Texas. We go turkey hunting all over the place, and they're my dad's friends too. They all know Dickie, so they look forward to having him and sharing a camp with him every time.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, we go back when we think about your dad and what y'all get to hunt together. That's really special, and it's been a lot of fun. Cuz if anybody got another question, if not, we'll close this thing out.
No, I'm good. I just had a great time catching up with him. Like I say, if you go to their Instagram page and start looking at deer, you'll know all you need to know about him. But the history part of it, and there's nothing wrong with the history part of things. We're not stuck in the past. But a lot of young people love hearing about that stuff.
They do. They weren't around.
Yeah. Yep. For sure. Guys, I really appreciate you, and I really appreciate my Southern brothers.
Southern brothers.
Oh, y'all don't mean that.
Yeah.
I appreciate y'all.
There you go.
I'm working on that word yet.
That's us.
Well, Paul, we hope you come out of the closet there at the lodge there and go enjoy the rest of the day. Todd, thank you for joining us. We appreciate your perspective on things. It's been a lot of fun. I'm looking around the room. If there's nothing left to do, why don't you say goodbye, Dudley?
Goodbye, Dudley. Get us out of here, Richie.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of the Gamekeeper Podcast. And be sure to tune in again. Subscribe to Gamekeeper Farming for Wildlife magazine, and don't miss the Mossy Oak Properties Fistful of Dirt podcast with my good buddy, Ronnie Cuz Strickland.